Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Al Rehabs Houses, and today I'm going to tell you guys about 3 mistakes I made on my first renovation. But before I jump right into the mistakes, let me give y'all a little backstory so that it all makes sense, right? All right, so I started real estate working as a day laborer for a good friend of mine, right? Day labor being I sweep the house, I move drywall, I move concrete. Pretty much most of my day I clean up, right? I keep everything in order. I'm not really doing anything that's like meaningful at the time, right? It's just mainly just muscle there, pretty much is what I was, right? So they were working on his house. This was a house that was a complete renovation from start to finish. So they did all the framing, drywall, all of that stuff, right? So I'm on the job cleaning up, kind of learning as I go along, right? After this project is done, my friend who I came to work for, he comes to me and he's like, hey, I have this opportunity. We can buy this house. It's in West Baltimore. It's only 5,000. You put up 2,500. I put up 2,500. I'll go in and do the work. All you got to do is give me half of the money for the renovation. You don't even have to work if you don't want. He's like, just give me half of the money. I'll put up my half, and then we split whatever we make. I'm like, perfect, right? No problem. So we buy the house, 5 grand. 1 month go by. He's like, man, I'm busy. I can't get there, but I'm gonna get to it. 2 months go by. Same thing, man. I'm slammed, but I'm gonna get to it. House just sitting. At this point, I'm like, man, I want to make some money, right? So I'm like, look, yo, I know what I can do it. I'm like, I'll find somebody to do the work. I'll manage them, and then you put up half the money. And when it's done, we'll split the profit. He's like, you think you can do it? Yeah, for sure, right? So before this happened, I went to another guy that we both knew, and I was complaining. I'm like, yo, we had this house. It's been sitting for 3 months. Nothing's going on. They not going there. I'm sick of this house sitting. I'm complaining, right? So he's like, yo, I know somebody who does construction. He's like, I see him when he come home at the end of the day. He told me they do construction. I can introduce you. I'm like, bet, that's exactly what I need. At this time, I know no contractors. Like, my friend is the only one I know who's in this field, right? So I'm like, cool. So he hooks me up with a guy. Me and the guy meet. I'm like, what do you know how to do, man? You know how to do? He's like, man, I do everything. He's like, man, I do whole houses. He's like, I do framing, I can do plumbing, I can do everything. He's like, don't worry about it, man. I can do a whole house. I'm like, oh yeah. So I didn't know much then, but I did know enough to say, hey, you got any like houses you can show me? So he's like, all right. He gave me a couple addresses, right? Like 2 or 3 addresses. He's like, go check these out. He's like, only thing is you can't get in them because I just finished them and the agent put them on the market. He was like, so you just gotta look through the window and look at it that way. He's like, but you can see because like it's no blinds, anything up, just take a look. I'm like, all right, that's good enough. That's all I need to see. Right? So I go, I look at these houses. I'm like, yo, the work look good. I tell my homeboy, like, yo, he know what he's doing. I appreciate you introducing me to him. So I take the guy to the house that me and my other friend bought. And I'm like, all right, this is what we need done. It's a renovation. We need like new kitchen, bathrooms, floors, all this stuff. He's like, well, yeah, I can do that, no problem. 15,000. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know about pricing, but I'm like, sounds good, right? So I'm like, yeah, 15,000, sound good, right? He's like, all right, just give me 5 to get going. I give the guy 5,000, right? And I tell my buddy, like, yo, I got somebody that's going to do the work, whatever. The guy's going to start 15,000. I gave him 5 already. So my buddy's like, all right. So the guy gets in there, he starts doing some work, and he's just doing, I don't know what he's doing, nothing really, right? Like, I remember walking in, and it's like the kitchen is there, and it's not all the cabinets in the kitchen end, but it's just literally the sink cabinet. And it's like this sink cabinet just there, and then one cabinet up above. And I'm like, okay, kitchen going in, he'll put like a window in, some trim, like a door. It was just like a bunch of like miscellaneous things. But to me, I was like, well, when you add them all together, it made sense, right? So he's like, man, I did some things, I need another 5,000, right? So I go to my buddy, I'm like, yo, he need 5,000 more, keep going. My buddy gives me the money, I give it to the guy, right? And so same thing is happening. He's doing a little bit of this or that, maybe a door or something, like all kinds of just like all over the place. But to me, I'm like, it looks good, right? Something is getting done. So about a month or so passed. My buddy one day is like, hey man, I'm gonna go past the house and just take a look. So he goes there and he calls me and he's pissed. Yo, what the? I mean, just cussing me out like, what's going on? These guys are crackhead. And keep in mind, the guy, I was like, yeah, maybe he might mess around or whatever, but he do good work, right? So I just like kind of looked past that. And the area that we working in was like not the best area to put those two things together. So my money was kind of coming in the front door, going out the back door kind of thing, right? But my buddy's like, man, this dude is like a crackhead. Like he got all these people in here, and it was a disaster, right? So long story short, I got fired. The guy got fired. We all got fired, right? So I was pissed. I mean, because even before he had went there, like I was starting to run into problems with the guy. Like I would go there and it's just like nobody's there, or like the stuff that they're doing is like just kind of meaningless things. So I was pissed too by this point. So I got fired, the guy got fired. The house set, like we sat on the house. He didn't go and do the work. And we were already in it, 15,000, a 5 we bought it for, and then another 10 that we put in renovation. So he just like sat for like a few years, probably about like 2-3 years. And then when we finally got around to it, we sold it to another investor. I don't know what they did. Eventually knocked down that whole block that was there. So I don't know like what happened with the other investor, but the house is gone now. But I had to tell that story before I could get into the lesson so that you can kind of understand that everybody goes through lessons, right? Everybody makes mistakes, especially when you're getting going. So a few of the lessons I learned, number one, just generally speaking, or let me not even say number one, generally speaking, I learned that life, right, like accountability is first, right? The first thing that we need to do before we can learn anything is to take accountability for what we did in the situation. And then that even allows us to be open to learning lessons, right? Because for years, I was looking for this guy. And when I was looking for him, I always was like, it was his fault. He did this to me, he did that to me, he did this, he did that. But reality was, I didn't accept responsibility for anything that I had did wrong, right? The mistakes I had made throughout the process. So that's number one, just in all areas, be accountable so that we can learn, right? That's important. So number one would be consider a referral source. In this case, I was so desperate to get work done that I didn't even really think about who it was coming from, right? Like he said he knew a guy, and that was enough for me to be like, okay, that, right? But in reality, like looking back on it, there are better referral sources to get information from than somebody who doesn't know anything about like what you're into, right? So if like you ask somebody for a referral, you want them to have some kind of experience or knowledge in whatever it is that you're asking for a referral for, right? So if I want to get a plumber, I'm going to look for somebody who knows about plumbing or who has experience in doing something that will require plumbers, right? And then I'm still going to vet that source myself, but at least it gives me like a pretty strong base to make the initial connection versus, me just bumping into somebody who says they're a plumber, right? So number one is consider a referral source, and the more knowledgeable the referral source, usually like the better the referral, right? Number two is just take your time when hiring contractors, right? Like ask them if they're licensed, number one, right? I would say, especially when you're going out, getting going, I always tell people to make sure to choose somebody who's licensed. And the reason being is because somebody who is licensed, normally you're able to look into their license. Have they ever been sued before? Do they have any like cases for work that they had done bad or done wrong? 3, they're normally licensed and bonded and insured, so that kind of protects you some, right? And also like here in Maryland, we have what's called the guarantee fund. So if a licensed contractor comes out to do a job for you and they don't perform in the way you think they should, you have the ability to go to the guarantee fund and get up to $20,000 back for the work that was improperly done, or if they take your money and never come back and things like that. Like, just actions that you can take that don't exist necessarily with unlicensed contractors, right? So just take time hiring a contractor, make sure you ask for referrals, look into their work, ask them if you can come to active jobs, not jobs where you can look through the window and see what's going on, right? And then number 3, I would say, is just taking your time to kind of learn the business. That way you have at least a general overview of what you should expect, right? You're not going to know everything, but you do want to have an overview, right? Like, what should you expect? Like, if things are being done the way they should, how should it look? Like demo, there's a process to it, right? And it's not just like I put in one cabinet here and one window and I did a piece of trim here. It's like, it should be demo and then framing and then your systems. And all these things kind of like flow in like a order of operations. And then that way, at least you know that things are going the way that they should, right? So just take time to do things like watch these videos or, join groups and things and learn about renovation and just the process of it so that you have an idea what you're looking for. And then as a bonus, I'll throw in, look for people that are passionate about what they do, like people that truly enjoy whatever it is that you're asking them to do, right? And you can tell this a lot of times by how people talk about their work and what they do. Do they seem like it's something they really enjoy? Like we've all had people who, let's say you have like, whoever, a teacher. You have a teacher that loves what they do and you have a teacher who hates what they do. And normally if you were to sit there and talk to both of them, you can see the difference in how one feels about it and how the other feels about it. Because normally I find that with contractors that are passionate about what they do, they tend to do whatever is right, whether you're there watching them or not. So if they see something wrong that they've done, they'll go back and fix it, even if you're not there to be like, hey, I see that you're doing that and that's wrong. And the reason why that's really important, especially when you get going, is because you don't know exactly what's right and what's wrong. So you want someone who's going to be like, I'm gonna do what's right because it's the right thing to do. I'm gonna do what's right because I care about how my work comes out, right? And those people exist, but can be hard to find. So just be patient and look for them. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Drop down in the comments and let me know like what y'all would like to see videos on. I can make videos on a variety of topics. I just need to know your questions and let me know what you want to hear me talk about. If you're interested in learning more about real estate, I put a link in the bio to my free group for people who are getting going, just to kind of give people direction, because when I started, clearly, I didn't have anything like this to go to, or I didn't if it was available. So I want to make myself available as a resource and be helpful to y'all, and catch you on the next video.